Hi, I'm Brandon Kahila. Welcome to Streetwise. Everyone has a home address, and everyone with a home address lives on a street, avenue, boulevard, or road. Have you ever been curious about the origin of your street and the reason your street has the name it does? In this show, we'll learn about the individuals whose lives influence our city streets and the reason places are named as they are. We'll go back in history, revealing the stories within some of the greatest streets on Earth, here on Streetwise. This week, I'm here in Tampa Bay, on the west coast of Florida. Home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rays, the Tampa Lightning, and Ballast Point, formerly known as Jules Verne Park. Ships heading into the Hillsborough Bay during the 1800s dropped their ballasts as they passed in order to stay afloat in the shallow water. The spot became known as the Ballast Point. This week we'll be talking about Bayshore Boulevard. Why Bayshore Boulevard? Because Bayshore Boulevard is one of the first sites for early settlers of Tampa Bay. Bayshore Boulevard really starts here, at the south end of MacDill Air Force Base. But for our show, we begin our journey here, at the corner of Gandy Boulevard and Bayshore Boulevard, home to the longest continuous sidewalk in the world. Today, Bayshore Boulevard provides Tampa's most stately and elegant homes. On the seawall shore of the Hillsborough Bay, bordered by the longest-running sidewalk in the world, Bayshore reflects a proud heritage unparalleled. Throughout the history of Tampa, on any given day, you might see joggers, skaters, and bikers out on their daily quest for exercise, while others come just to soak up the sunshine and the view. To start off this episode of Streetwise, we have to first look at the original natives of this land, the Tocobaga Indians. The Tocobaga Indians lived in small villages at the northern end of Tampa Bay from 900 to the 1500s. Because of their proximity to both the bay and freshwater streams, the Tocobaga fished and gathered shellfish as their primary source of food. They also ate manatees, which were abundant in the nearby waters. In approximately 1528, Panfilo de Narvaez, a Spanish explorer, arrived in the Tampa Bay area. He and his men found the Tocobaga and brought disease and violence to the tribe's peaceful existence. As a result, the Tocobaga Indians became extinct within the next 100 years. This area has been home to many cultures, including the Tocobaga Indians. The only non-native members of this land were Cuban fishermen, who would catch bountiful fish off the waters just adjacent to Bayshore Boulevard. As time went on, the fishing village turned into a farming area by the inhabitants. There was a freshwater creek that emptied into Tampa Bay, and this is where they settled their village. At first the town was called Spanish Town, but as time went by, it was called Spanish Town Creek. In 1824, the U.S. Army founded Fort Brooks. The soldiers at Fort Brooke uprooted the tranquility and fishing grounds once enjoyed by the settlement, and in time, the freshwater creek was filled up, and as a result, the settlement of Spanish Town Creek eventually left the area, never to return. In the late 1800s, Mr. Frederick A. Solomonson bought and sold real estate around his home. During this time, Bayshore did not exist as a street. Mr. Solomonson was able to persuade officials to pave a short road as an extension of Bay Street that was extended along the banks of the Hillsborough River. Mr. Solomonson also served as mayor of Tampa from 1893 to 1895, and again in 1904. A dream of Alfred Reuben Swan and Eugene Haltstinger brought about a major land development project of the Bayshore in the early 1900s. Together, Swan and Holtzinger visualized and developed a real estate dream on the Bayshore in 1907 by turning an environment of fiddler crabs, mudflat mosquito-filled land into a high-class residential district. Together, they purchased a large tract of land in the area and began developing it. In time, they had not only built a seawall and sidewalk beside it, but also electric lights. It was a vision to behold. Within a few years, the development along part of the Bayshore was completed, and it was named Suburb Beautiful. In time, Bayshore Drive was tied in with the country road opened in the early 1890s, with a trolley line to Ballast Point. In 1914, this 3.12-mile-long country road became the boulevard consisting of two 11-foot strip brick pavements. It was at this time that many stately homes began to rise near the sidewalk of Bayshore Boulevard. Bayshore Drive proper, Boulevard, became a picturesque artery from downtown to South Tampa. In 1908, the words Bayshore Boulevard appeared for the first time in the Tampa City Directory. On October 25, 1921, the city of Tampa experienced the worst storm since 1848. The Tampa Morning Star headline stated that lost through storm severe. These ominous headlines referred to the hurricanes that developed in the Caribbean, that swung around Cuba and proceeded northward into Tampa Bay, then slipping in. The downpour of rain fell. The streets were a mass of litter and broken glass, shattered awnings, and tangled wire. Water did the worst. Tampa Bay's water rose so high that the seawall along Bayshore Drive and Bayshore Boulevard was destroyed in many places.
We now arrive at Chapin Avenue, former home of Chester Chapin and his wife. They are responsible for implementing the first ever trolley car in Tampa Bay, running all the way from historic Ybor City to Ballast Point.
Mr. and Mrs. Chester W. Chapin were originally from New York and were looking for a winter home in the South. The Chapins would become very instrumental in helping develop the Bayshore area in the city. They found and purchased 110 acres of land, 3 miles south of the city limits of them. The home they eventually built, located in the middle of an orange grove.
You'll notice that there are no gas stations, garages, or shopping plazas near Bayshore Boulevard.
In 1936, the City Board of Aldermen passed an ordinance prohibiting these constructions. While some businesses were outraged, the ordinance was locally historic, first towards keeping at least one major street free of commercial clutter, and thus preserving the beauty of Bayshore Boulevard. The longest continuous sidewalk in the world, here on Bayshore Boulevard, is 3.12 miles long.
Next up on our tour of Bayshore Boulevard is historic Howard Avenue.
Howard Avenue was named after Howard Pettingill McFarland. Howard was born in Tampa in 1888. In 1921, he was elected as the youngest president of the Hillsborough County Bar Association. Howard died in 1967.
Now I'm standing at the corner of Bay to Bay Boulevard and Bayshore Boulevard. Why Bay to Bay? Well, it stretches all the way from the Hillsborough Bay, near Bayshore Boulevard, to the Tampa Bay, near West Shore Boulevard. And now we've reached the end of Bayshore Boulevard. It terminates here at Platt Street, where it goes into Ybor City and historic downtown Tampa.
Obadiah H. Platt, from Hyde Park, Illinois, was born around 1836 in New York. Platt was a prospector who in 1865 bought the land that would now be known as Platt Street.
You can still find remnants of the trolley tracks here at the Platt Street Bridge. Now, Gasparilla may sound like an exotic drink or even a flower, but if you ask anyone around here, they'll tell you exactly what it means. Food, beads, and merriment. It means that January is here, and that this great festival is about to begin.
The people of Tampa have always had a love affair with the legendary pirates of the Caribbean. It is very obvious when you look at Tampa's famous football team, the Buccaneers. And Tampa is also famous for its Gasparilla events. The name and foundation of Tampa's traditional Gasparilla Carnival come from legendary pirate Jose Gaspar, last of the Buccaneers, who terrorized the coastal waters of West Florida during the late 18th century. Gaspar, given to calling himself Gasparilla, served as a lieutenant in the Royal Spanish Navy for 5 years until 1783, when upon seizing command of a Spanish sloop of war, he and his fellow mutineers set sail for the Florida Straits. And so the young Spanish aristocrat turned pirate began an adventurous life as an outlaw of the sea. Tampa has upheld its tradition by celebrating Gasparilla every year.
The festival was so successful that the people of Tampa decided to have this carnival every year. It became known as the Gasparilla Festival.
And now we will chat with Jack Whiteside Jr., owner of The Colonnade, Bayshore Boulevard's only restaurant, on the longest continuous sidewalk in the world.
The history of the restaurant goes back to 1935 when my grandmother started it. Her sons Jack and Dick were in high school, Plant High School, and my grandfather was a dentist. And they owned about 2 acres here. And I think my dad was born here in the back of the parking lot. The house was in the back of the parking lot is now. He was born here, and my uncle also in 1915 and 1917, I believe. So the property's been in the family well over 100 years. And my grandmother started, and it was just a little drive-in. They served fountain cokes and hamburgers, fried chicken, stuff like that. And then in 51 or 52, we expanded a little bit, and then 55, we built another one. In the same spot, same spot. And then in 74, we built this one because we used to do a lot of fishing and had a lot of our own seafood and stuff. And so we started serving mainly seafood, a lot of seafood, and it has developed to this. My dad talks about hunting around here and shooting quail and stuff like that. Of course, it was pretty built up at the time I remember. I used to remember go down to Bayshore, and all of us would go down there and crab and fish all the time. We fish hundreds of blue crabs and stuff like that. And the only fish we can't fish. We're just local business is what we live on, and we have a tremendous amount of tourism and stuff come in like that. But we just, everybody that comes in here have been coming here for many, many years. A lot of them Plant High School, Robinson, as you said you went to. This is just kind of their place they've always come to. And we get one generation after the other coming in.
On July 3rd, 1935, Lois Whiteside and her sons, Richard Jr. and Jack, proudly opened the Colonnade restaurant on beautiful Bayshore Boulevard. The 2 boys were Plant High School students, and the restaurant was soon a favorite local hangout for Tampa's teenagers. With the young and young at heart as regulars, cruising at the Nade became a favorite Bay Area pastime. The Colonnade offered a variety of Americana favorites, including hamburgers, fried chicken, and a Colonnade Original, an olive in your choice of Coca-Cola. After World War II, the restaurant began serving what it is now famous for, fresh seafood.
We've got seasoned butter here with garlic and wine already in it. Get that pan nice and red hot.
The chef is frying shrimp and scallops.
Let these cook just 1 second.
And now you will add zucchini, tomatoes, crab meat, the pasta, Parmesan cheese, and a little parsley.
I am Chef Jeff Kearney, and this is the Colonnade Seafood Pasta.
This is Vincent Martinez Ybor. He was responsible for bringing the cigar rolling industry to Tampa Bay. Today, Ybor City has become a mecca for nightlife. So basically, everything you're about to see is because of this guy.
Ybor City is a historic neighborhood in Tampa, Florida, located just northeast of downtown. It was founded in the 1880s by cigar manufacturers and was populated by thousands of immigrants, mainly from Spain, Cuba, and Italy. For the next 50 years, workers in Ybor City's cigar factories would roll millions of cigars annually.
This is what Ybor City's famous for. It's where they make hand-rolled cigars.
Ybor City nightlife includes some of the hottest college bars and nightclubs in Tampa. You'll also find everything you need, including techno dance clubs, outdoor patio bars, martini bars, entertainment venues, happy hour bars, live music jazz bars, and much more.
Let's go check out Gaspar's Grotto, named, as you know, after Jose Gaspar. I'm here at Gaspar's Grotto, a great place to mingle with locals. Obviously, there are several other streets that run adjacent to Bayshore Boulevard, which we didn't have time to cover in this week's episode of Streetwise. We hope that we've informed you and educated you, while at the same time entertaining you about the glorious town of Tampa Bay. Until next time, I'm Brandon Kahila, and now you're Streetwise. The sidewalk provides a great place for people to run, skate, or work on their calf muscles.